last year's draft, Johnny Mac, as it sits on paper right now, is really pretty bad. The saving grace could very well be the fact that was probably the most maligned pick in the draft as it was coming down, and that would be Jalen Hurts as a second-round quarterback, which people, yourself included, didn't understand. And why would they do that to Carson Wentz? And I thought, well, Carson Wentz, come on, he's a starting quarterback. He doesn't. What does it matter to him who the second-round pick is? Come on, they got him a wide receiver in the first round. He needs Rager plus. Come on, quit whining, Carson. But that's exactly how it played out. Football Friday here on Birds 365 with the Mac guys, John McMullen, Jody McDonald. We got an hour to close out the week with you. Coming up in about 20 minutes from now, we will have another good, close, personal friend of the show. Who's our buddy with the Birds and Friends podcast there? Johnny Mac.
You're talking about Bobo?
Bobo with Birds and Friends. We have the Birds 365 and Friends show every once in a while. Ed Kratz is certainly one of those. Yeah. We tap in Ed often enough. And yes, we do like to talk to our buddy Barrett Brooks from, of course, the middle here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. But also I see his smiling face on NBC Sports when I turn on my morning update every morning when I get on with his updated Eagles insights and or stances. So we'll let Barrett share some of those with us coming up about 20 minutes from now. Speaking of coming up, we got an Eagles football season, which is exactly how many days away, Johnny?
I've already forgotten, Jody. Oh, Zach Ertz days away, 86.
That would be 86 days away. Exactly right. Opening day, no questions asked. The return of football, and they're not opening up here 86 days from now. They'll be in Atlanta. But when they open up their home season, it's going to be a sellout. The place is going to be packed. Yes, no questions asked. Birds football start. Don't know what kind of team they're going to have. Everybody will be tremendously optimistic. Why? Because you can be when the season just gets underway. By the time we get to November, we might find out that I think one of the positives is the NFC East is going to be close to the NFC least again. So I don't know that the Birds will be eliminated from playoff competition by the end of November. But December could get a little dicey. We may already be looking at what pick are we looking at in the draft by this point?
According to all the experts, top 10, Jody. Every single one of them.
You and I are slightly more optimistic with 8 wins for the Eagles out of 17 games this year, not 16. 8 is not above 500, it's below 500 because that would make 8 and 9. But we're on the optimistic side of it. What if you and I are wrong and the rest of the world is right? And the Eagles are looking at a top 10, 8, 6 pick. Will the Eagles game still be sold out like it is the norm? Because we are coming back from COVID, John. It's just going to continue to get better. It doesn't matter. They're going to sell every single ticket, huh?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's 2 different things, Jody. I mean, they're going to sell. They always sell every single ticket. Now, if you're bad, there's a lot of people who might not show up on a cold night in December, but those tickets will be sold. So from a business standpoint, they're going to lose concessions, parking, all that kind of stuff. But the tickets are sold. I mean, that's not going to be an issue. The issue is, are people going to give up on this team? Does apathy set in? And I don't think so. Number one, because we all know this show exists because of the passion of the Eagles fans, number one. Number two, I think it just shifts. I think, one of the things about sports fans that define sports fans, and you'll see it tonight, Sixers fans will be fired up tonight, even though they've been devastated over the past 2 games. They're going to show up until it's over. And Eagles fans are even more passionate, and they'll just shift from, okay, we think Jalen Hurts is the guy to top 10 pick. Okay, who's it going to be? Sam Howell? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Keaton Slovis? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be, Spencer Rattler? We had talking about him earlier this week. That's what will happen, Jody.
I fear you're right. I'm hoping that it's more in the moment in the season, but yes, there is the possibility that we turn the page, which is an interesting way to look at this season because you always believe this is a year we're going to do things, we're going to be above 500, we're going to get the playoff game at home, going to get going, and then the season plays itself out. But part of, and I think even from the early season, we're going to be looking at not only 2021, but 22 and 23 and the future years. And it needs to look better. Let's put it that way, because as I was just checking out the Eagle roster today to check out a couple of things, I realized last year's draft, Johnny Mac, as it sits on paper right now, is really pretty bad. The saving grace could very well be the fact that was probably the most maligned pick in the draft as it was coming down, and that would be Jalen Hurts as a second-round quarterback, which people, yourself included, didn't understand, and why would they do that to Carson Wentz? And I thought, well, Carson Wentz, come on, he's a starting quarterback. He doesn't. What does it matter to him who the second-round pick is? Come on, they got him a wide receiver in the first round. He needs Rager plus? Come on, quit whining, Carson. But that's exactly how it played out. How bad was that draft? Let me go quickly through it. Last year's draft: Jalen Rager, Jalen Hurts, Davion Taylor. How much he contribute this past year, John? Rookie Davion Taylor's contribution
barely anything. And by the way, they knew that coming in because he was so raw coming out of college. Barely played in high school. Seventh day at Venice. We've all told the story. Wasn't allowed to play high school football. So they knew he was raw, but very athletic. He was a developmental type, so you can argue about it. I've already started saying, you know what? I want to throw Davion Taylor into the deep end of the pool and see if he can play. If he can't, great, move on. If he can play, he's so athletic, he could be an upgrade over the Eric Wilsons of the world, the Alex Singletons of the world.
We'll see how that one shakes out, but
last year, nothing. Last year, nothing.
It may have been expected, but it was a zippity doodah. Not much more than that from Kevon Wallace, correct?
No, Kevon was not effective when he did play, and this is what I'm talking about. I've mentioned this before as well, Jody. 4th round pick. Everybody's acting like, oh, we'll just throw Zach McPherson out there and he'll play corner. Well, look at your 4th round pick last year at safety. How'd that work out?
Yeah.
Y'all thought he was going to be a star.
Production like this. Jake Driscoll actually probably contributed more than maybe anybody in the draft. And that, you talk about a project and a down the road type player, a development type player. That's what they penciled Jake Driscoll in for when they drafted him. But because of injuries and situations, he actually ended up playing more than almost anybody else who got drafted last year.
Yeah, Jack, and obviously because of injuries, he had to play, was forced in the lineup. But Jeff Stoutland loves him. I think he was really pleasantly surprised on how he kind of fought through it and how, he wasn't great at times. Let's not be overly optimistic. He had some really big issues as well. And by the way, he ended up getting banged up. But I can tell you, Jeff Stoutland really, really likes him. And yeah, I would say that is a big positive, certainly in the 4th round.
Understood. The 2 wide receivers, Hightower first, Quez Watkins after, even though you ask me who actually flashed a little bit more, is more Quez than it was Hightower, and Sean Bradley in between them. I remember on draft night, I thought that was a stone cold steal. And maybe I let my Temple colors bleed through looking at it through owl colored glasses because I'm a fan, because my daughter's an alum. But I had like Ricky Saratella, who I trust with grading college players going forward. He really was high on Bradley, thought he was going to go higher than he did. I thought they had a steal. They never really gave him much of a chance. He played some, but not a whole heck of a lot. The Schwartz defense still de-emphasizing linebacker. Will this new defense give Sean Bradley more of a chance, you think, this year, John?
Look, Eric Wilson's going to play, and I wrote about this at Sports Illustrated. They're going to play a 4-2-5 most of the time, so they're going to be a nickel most of the time. There's going to be 2 so-called 3-down linebackers. Wilson's going to be one of them. When they are in 4-3, you know, kind of TJ Edwards is going to be the Mike, but you're not in 4-3 a lot, so he's not going to play a lot. So you're looking for that second sort of 3-down linebacker. Alex Singleton would be the obvious choice. And then Davion Taylor, Sean Bradley. Look, if they outplay him, all we talk about is competition. They should be out there. If you look at what Jonathan Gannon had in Indianapolis and Minnesota, if you look Nick Rollis in Minnesota, Darius Leonard, Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr, they like athletic linebackers. That defines Davion Taylor and Sean Bradley. In theory, they should have a chance to compete. In theory.
But you're not sure Theory's going to play.
No. I think Alex Singleton's going to be the starter.
We shall see that. And I don't want to turn my nose up at the last couple of draft picks. The Prince. Who did the Prince land?
Kansas
Did he
City,
sign
baby.
on with somebody else? Andy Reid picked him up off the scrap heap?
Kansas City.
Good.
I was psyched up about that draft pick. A lot of people had Prince Tega Wanaho as a potential second or third round pick, and he had some knee injuries. He was the more highly regarded Auburn tackle than Jack Driscoll.
Right.
And they managed to get Prince later in the draft because of that knee injury. So I was a little fired up about that pick, and it just went nowhere. And Casey Toohill as well. Washington picked up Casey Toohill on waivers. He's still down there. But look, 6th, 7th round picks, you're just taking flyers. That doesn't concern me much at all.
Rager, Hurts, Taylor, Wallace, Driscoll, Hightower, Bradley, Watkins, Prince, and Toohill, who've already moved on to greener pastures elsewhere. That draft stinks, John. That's just
way too early. Way too early. I mean, we always talk about it's 3 years, the conventional wisdom before. I can tell you right now, well, Jody, right off the bat, if Jalen Hurts develops into what you and some optimistic people think he is, this draft is a rousing success.
Oh,
rousing.
I didn't say stinks forever. Yeah. I said stinks today because you're right. To have a complete 100% picture, you got to wait minimum of 5 years, sometimes more than that. But I'm sorry, there are snapshots along the way.
Yeah,
and you can look at it at any point and say, yeah, but, and then we need to continue evaluate. 1 year in, snapshot look, that draft stinks.
Yeah, immediacy, it did not give you help. And Jalen Reagor was bad. When he was healthy, he was bad. You know, people point to the injuries, and that's legitimate because he did get hurt on 2 different occasions. But he wasn't good when he did play, and he was healthy. So that's a concern. And it's even magnified more by the guy picked behind him that we talk about ad nauseum, who've turned into one of the best rookie receivers ever. 1,400 receiving yards right behind you. So that's going to be a bugaboo. And it's already a bugaboo with Jalen Reagor because people never stop asking about it, which is not fair. We mentioned the Hurts pick. Look, early on, Jody, you can kill Carson Wentz, but it turned out to be true. I think you should kill Carson Wentz. I think he should have fought through it. I think he should have been mentally tougher. But as we all see, and this will be my second shot at the Sixers, not everybody's mentally tough. You see it all the time. It was a bad decision. Now we'll see if they can turn it around and turn it into a good decision. And then Davion Taylor, because all I care about is those premium picks, the first 3 rounds. Those guys got to play. Those guys got to develop into at least, when you start talking about 3rd round picks, you just want starters. They got to be competent starters. You got to hit on those premium picks. Right now, as we stand today, after 1 year, Jalen Reagor was a failure. Davion Taylor was a failure. And Jalen Hurts was a failure because of other circumstances, because of what it did to the team and what it did to the fact that Jeffrey Lurie had to eat $34 million. That's why that's a failure. Not because of the player, Pamela Hertz, not because of the player, because of what it did to the team. And that is, you're right. After 12 months, it's a bad draft.
Right. You get to regrade. You get the chance to improve. You get the chance to upgrade your grade. But at this point, it's damn close to an F, which lends me to my question. It was the first press conference they had with Nick Sirianni. He was asked, quite possibly by John McMullen, do you have control of the 53? Which, I know. Most Eagle fans know exactly what you mean when you ask that question. That means the 53-man roster on game day. And the new coach's response was what, John?
I don't know. He didn't know.
I don't know. That was maybe the most fear-inspiring quote that the coach put forward for me.
Which, by the way, Jody, is an answer. It's not a clear answer, but it is an answer. And I can tell you, he does not. He does not. And when you don't know, you don't have it.
That was my thoughts immediately as well, which means, is Howie Roseman just going to decide what is best for this football team on a week in, week out basis, because he's going to give his coach the best roster to try and win that football game that week against that opponent? Or is he going to put together a roster so that guys who are yet to be determined, like John McMullen said, you can't judge a draft after just 1 year. You got to wait years for that. Will those type of players that were drafted by Howie Roseman be given a special preference when the 53-man roster is, debated, right, Howie decides, decided on a week-in, week-out basis?
No. One of the differences, one of the problems with coaches versus GMs is GMs have to think about more than immediacy, and coaches are always thinking about the next opponent and trying to win that game. So there are times, and we see it all the time with especially veteran coaches. This is one of the legit criticisms of Jim Schwartz, who I love as a coach, but I will be the first to admit, like, he's going to default to a veteran every single time. He just is. He doesn't trust young guys, understandably so. He calls it startup costs, and they can be ugly at times. On the other hand, the GM's got to think about more than this week. He's got to think years down the line in some occasions. And sometimes if you have a Davion Taylor and you made the decision to draft him, well, you better figure out at some point if a kid can play. And, if he's not active, he can't play.
And then those two knuckleheads on Birds 365 are going to point out, where did they draft him? And he can't even get dressed on Sunday? Yeah. That will be part of the decision-making process this upcoming year. All right, we've decided to add to the mix. Coming up next segment, we will bring on one of the Birds 365 and friends. Our boy Barrett Brooks joins us next here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.